So today I finally did it. I made it to 20,000 words on the sci-fi book that I've been working on. I actually had another slump the past few days, and I had been writing, consistently every day. But then it kind of happened again where just like my energy dropped down and something was like messed up with my diet, or I don't know, I couldn't figure it out. And I felt like I was going to lose it and I wasn't going to be able to keep writing. And the same fear came back of, the up and down energy and not being able to trust myself and confidence and whatever. But then I woke up this morning and I tried something different. I tried adding an extra quarter ounce of liver for my animal-based diet. And liver has a ton of copper, also B vitamins, which are essential for energy. And I was just like, there we go. That was it. That was what I needed to do. And I just sat down on the computer and I worked until like 4 o'clock, probably from about 8 o'clock in the morning until 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I wrote about 2,300 words and that got me up to the 20,000 word mark. The other thing that was going on though creatively is like I got to this big section in the book. Like the beginning of it was pretty linear in terms of the plot. Like there was very clear step by step by step. And then I got to this section where there's like an alien invasion and the main character has to go down into a fallout shelter. And then when he like wakes up in the fallout shelter, I was like, what now? I've been doing a really good job of just like coming up with the plot points as I go. Or at least for the most part. I've done some planning and a lot of brainstorming, especially over the past few years. But this was like a whole new terrain that I hadn't even started to think about. And then the other hard thing about it was that I have no experience of like, being in a fallout shelter, except maybe my van. My van's a little bit like a fallout shelter. So I think the past few days, I think it was like 3 or 4 days that I didn't write anything. I was just brainstorming and trying to come up with ideas and figure out where the plot was going to go and who the characters were going to be and the mystery of like what was going on in the vault. And so like the first day where I didn't write anything, I came up with this. It's a map of the whole Fallout complex. It starts here. This is where the main character comes in. It's the elevator shaft. And then it goes into like a little hallway here. And then there's like a decontamination room right there. It's kind of awkward because I'm pointing in reverse. So it's a bit difficult to calibrate. But anyways, then there's like a clothing room after that here. And then there's the bedrooms where everyone stays. I think I'm going to turn the bedrooms into like sort of, instead of like military cots, I think I'm going to do those Amtrak style thing, like sort of cubby cots. I thought that would be really cozy. And then there's the bathroom. And here's the med bay there. There's also this like park here. And yeah, it's going to be like, plastic trees and stuff, I think. And so like part of the plot, without giving away too much, is that the character finds himself sort of like in this place that's safe, but there's also something nefarious going on that he has to figure out. And then also like avoid the trap of getting sucked into something that's too comfortable, which is sort of like the theme here. But yeah, in the center, there's like all of the living stuff. So you have the dining room and the kitchen and nursery for kids. There's a theater right there. And then there's a gym with some little weights. You've got a temple, a store, laundry. Here's the like military quarters with barracks, armory. And this is all like the soldier stuff in here. There's the HQ where the head commander stays. There's some storage here, waste, then like all of the kind of life support stuff in this section. And I'm thinking it'll be kind of cool for the plot to have like this secret section. Like you have this stuff which is sort of off limits, all of the barracks and the life support and that sort of stuff. It's off limits behind this door here. But then you have this door here that leads to like a whole nother secret area where things that I can't tell you about are going to happen. But yeah, up here at the top, here's a list of all of the rooms that I had to come up with. This is, like I said, part of the reason why I got stuck creatively is because there was just too many things, too many variables for me to have to pull out of my ass, as I was just writing and sitting down every day. So a lot of times this will happen with writing. Like your brain just needs to work on something in the background while you're doing something else. And then eventually you just like wake up one day and you're like, oh, ready to write again. But yeah, one of the things that really motivates me to write is when I have like good, clever lines or just interesting things happening that kind of like spur me on to want to come up with more interesting things. Like when I was starting out, I was trying to figure out like what he would be experiencing when he first wakes up in the fallout shelter. Like, where would he be? Who is he talking to? What would the personality of the character be? And so I ended up coming up with this. He was in the med bay, and there was this like 3 or 4 year old daughter of the medic for the complex. And she's when he wakes up, she's like there, and she has this stuffed monkey that she calls Monkey. So he's like all confused because she's referring to the monkey as Monkey, like the name. And then he like gets confused by a variety of other things that she's telling him because he doesn't really know where he is or what's going on. But she says some really crazy things just from misunderstanding from being so young. Like, for example, he looks over at the IV bag that's dripping because he had like a concussion when he was going down the elevator. And so he's like, what's that? And she's like, apple juice. And he's like, what? And he's like looking at the little tube coming down into his vein, and he starts to freak out because he thinks that someone is putting apple juice into his body, and he doesn't really, he's like 10 years old, so, but he's not really stopping to think about whether or not that's realistic. And then the mother character comes in, who's the medic, and she's German, which I thought would make things even more fun because then she's like mispronouncing things. Like his first name is Will, and so she's calling him Vil. Like the German pronunciation. And so she comes in, and he's asking her all these like this string of questions, like, where am I? What happened? Blah, blah, where's my father? And then the last question, he's like, and why are you filling me up with apple juice? And so she just like looks at him and she's like, what in the heck are you talking about? And then she looks over at the daughter and she's like, what have you been telling her? What have you been telling this poor boy? I don't know. It was pretty funny. I liked that part. But I thought the little girl would be an interesting character to sort of like soften the blow a little bit, because one thing I really want to do with this book is make it like both like have these like childlike qualities of playfulness, but then also have super dark stuff. And I've never seen a sci-fi book do this really well. I mean, if you think about something like The Matrix, it skews a little more towards serious, and then Harry Potter, it skews a little bit more towards childish, and there's a little bit of adult themes, but not really. And so I feel like the world has been waiting, or I don't know, I've been waiting for this sci-fi book that is just like the two extremes, like child playfulness and just like extreme, mature, philosophical, gritty themes. I just feel like that would be really cool to be able to like whip the audience back and forth and take them into different emotional experiences, childlike experiences, and then, like more mature action adventure type stuff. What else? Yeah, in other news, I also started another challenge yesterday, which is a drawing challenge. I'm not going to do something as complicated as the 365 comics where I was like illustrating a full comic and having to come up with the idea every day. But what I wanted to do instead was do like an anatomy drawing lesson every single day, because I draw comics, I do my little cardboard things, as you've seen, but I'm not like a skilled technical artist when it comes to making complex, buildings and layouts and characters that look realistic and not like stick figures. I'm completely lost, I've never had the discipline to actually learn how to draw as a real artist and illustrator. So I got this book and I'm basically doing that every day, just like one page out of the book. Like yesterday I drew blockheads, just like geometric block shapes, pointed different directions, up, down, and like learning the ratios of the head, from different angles. And oh my God, it was so boring. My ADHD brain really struggled sitting down and doing that for like an hour and filling up the page. But I think in the end it'll be worth it because it'll help me visualize things more for writing my sci-fi book, it's definitely hard to imagine and keep a really detailed view of a character in your head. The other good thing that happened is that my tiny wood stove is coming tomorrow, so I don't know. I mean, maybe tomorrow, probably Monday actually, I might do the first fire of it and I'll make a blog about that. And then my mom is gone on vacation too, so I've had some really nice time to just like chill and not have any stressful arguments or worrying about her health. Like I have enough problems dealing with my own health. And speaking of which, my theory that oxalates are behind what's been causing my pain for years, I think is on point, because I've noticed like I have taken out more and more and more and more plant foods to where I'm almost eating nothing plant-based anymore. It's just all animal, raw milk, raw dairy, raw salmon, raw egg yolks, and I have an avocado, and I took out the baby spinach, or not spinach, lettuce, the baby lettuce, and it's like my body doesn't even need it. I just don't even need fiber. Like as long as I have about a half ounce of raw butter with each meal, it just like lubricates my digestive tract and like doesn't get clogged up or anything, which is the opposite of what happened every time I tried cooked meat without having a large amount of butter. So it's working really well, and I just eat the same thing every day. It's honestly like not that exciting, but it works, and it's incredibly satisfying. It's really amazing, like when you eat animal based, how little you need to eat, like volume wise. Like when I was eating vegan, I would have to have 3 meals a day, and they were like these giant bowls of salads and sprouts and carrots and all this stuff, and it's mostly water and fiber. But with animal based, I just have 2 meals a day. I have breakfast, which is just, about that. Like this is literally like that amount of food is all that I eat, and it's extremely high fat, pretty low protein, except for I even went down to about a quarter of ground raw bison, and then everything else is basically fat, which is the body's preferred energy source. And then I have the same meal in the evening around 4 p.m., and that carries me over until like 8 a.m. the next day with no food cravings, no dips in my energy. So it's really hard for me to see ever getting off of this diet. I've been eating raw animal based for 5 months almost now, and like no problems whatsoever, as long as you source it from a quality ethical place that takes seriously safety considerations about preparing and storing and processing the meat and the dairy. It's just like no problem whatsoever. And I realized that like there's so many things in my life, for example barefoot shoes, or eating raw meat, where it's like I just love to see society be wrong about something. I think honestly, I'm just like 5 years old at heart. I'm like a rambunctious 5-year-old that doesn't want to listen to authority figures and has their own ideas about how to be healthy and how to live and be creative and all that other stuff. So whenever I find one of these things where it's like 99% of people think that something's this way, and then it turns out that it's actually the complete opposite, it just makes me so happy. Like van life is another of those things. And yeah, getting the wood stove, I feel like, is another one, because people look at it and they're like, oh my God, that's so dangerous having a wood stove inside a van. But there are, tons of, well, not maybe tons, but there are lots of van life people who have wood stoves and they don't burn their vans down, at least the ones that have a brain and are responsible. So I'm just out here having fun. And one last good thing that happened recently is that for the past year, I had been slowly saving up money for a modular synth system. If you don't know, there's a system called Eurorack, and all these companies make these like little modules that you can screw into a rack, and then you connect them with these wires. You've probably seen like videos or pictures of it online. It looks like a mad scientist lab, and for years I've just trying to find a way that feels good for me to make music. I've tried things like little drum workstations like the OP1 from Teenage Engineering, but it was like too limiting, and it has like this LED screen, which, as you know, I don't like, which creates eye strain, etc. But then like as I got into Eurorack, it was like really expensive, and I had invested like $1,500 over the course of a year, just buying like a module every month or every 2 months or something, and all I had accomplished was creating this kick that I didn't even like that much. But the reason that I got into it because I liked like the physical aspect of turning knobs and not having any like LEDs in my face. But anyways, when I bought the wood stove, I somehow like miscalculated how much I had in my bank account, and then I got down to like $15 and I was just like, shit. I wasn't gonna have enough money for food, and I wasn't gonna have enough money to do anything with the van. So I was just like, screw it, I just sold my whole Eurorack setup, and that gave me a bunch of money. I made about 1,400 back, so I didn't lose that much in the end. But anyways, the thing that was really good is that I was playing around with this program called Ableton, and I had, as a Mac user, I had been using Logic. But it didn't look very good on my e-ink monitor. Like the UI was really dark, and that doesn't look good on a grayscale screen. It's really hard to read. But Ableton is like sort of a mid-gray, and I just started messing around with the drum synthesis tools, and within about 2 minutes, I was able to make a kick that sounded way better than what I had spent $1,700 on with my stupid Eurorack setup. So, like, my hope is that this is finally the end of all the time and energy and money wasting that I've put into trying to make electronic, music. I just want to, honestly, like, all I want to do is just make background music, like hip hop tracks for my videos, so I don't have to keep using stock music, which doesn't feel like my own. I do everything else in my video is my own, the filming is my own, the little cardboard titles that pop up are my own, and everything, my voice and all this stuff feels custom, but then I have this like stock music. So that's the goal. And I think that, the only problem is like having the time to like, you know, develop the beats and whatnot. But I'm glad that I was able to find a digital solution, because as much as I do love, the touch aspect of having knobs and things like that, it just takes up more space, and I'm trying to simplify my life. I really love artists like JPEG Mafia. He just literally rolls up to a concert with his freaking MacBook, and that's it. He has no backing musicians, no fancy light shows or anything. It's just like him and a laptop, and that's really cool. So I like that aspect, and I hope it works out for me. Anyways, it's really nice, and I need to go for a walk, so I think we're gonna cut things off there. But I hope you're having a nice night. I hope it's getting warmer where you are, because it was a long ass depressing winter. And here's cheers to vitamin D for all of us. Thank you for hanging out as always, and I'll catch you next time. Peace.